When you stop chasing someone and start living for yourself, everything changes. It's not just about pulling away from a relationship or giving up the pursuit. It's about rediscovering your own value. Most people don't realize it, but the moment you stop orbiting around someone else's approval is the moment you start radiating something much stronger: authenticity. There's a certain power in detachment, not apathy, not bitterness, but a calm, quiet strength that comes from knowing you're enough. When a man steps away from chasing, when he stops trying to mold himself to fit someone else's expectations, people begin to notice. Not because he's louder or flashier, but because confidence has a gravity of its own. Chasing often comes from a place of insecurity, from the fear of not being enough, of not being loved unless you prove your worth. But when you step back and start building a life that matters to you, when your goals, your health, your mindset become your priority, you change, you become centered, and ironically, that's when people start to take notice. That's when the same people who once seemed distant now start to lean in. Why? Because self-respect is magnetic. Living for yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. When you build yourself up mentally, physically, spiritually, you create a version of yourself that no longer begs for attention but earns respect. And people can feel that difference. They sense when a man has purpose, when his actions are no longer a performance for someone else, but a reflection of who he truly is. This is when your energy shifts. You're no longer chasing people who don't see your worth, because now you see it. And the world responds to that. The world responds to a man who knows where he's going, who doesn't flinch in the face of rejection, who's no longer waiting to be chosen, but is busy choosing himself every single day. It's not about playing games or trying to make anyone jealous. It's about alignment. When you chase, you give your power away. When you live for yourself, you take it back. And in doing so, you become the kind of man others notice. Not because you're trying to be noticed, but because you've become someone worth noticing. When you stop chasing others and start living for yourself, something transformative happens. It's not just about detaching from relationships or putting an end to the pursuit of validation. It's about discovering and embracing your own authenticity. There's a natural magnetism that comes with being unapologetically yourself, one that doesn't require force or outward display, but emanates from within. People notice authenticity because it is rare, and it creates an energy that demands attention without seeking it. In a world that often rewards conformity and image over substance, authenticity stands out. It's easy to become trapped in a cycle of trying to meet others' expectations, to be what they want you to be or fit into their molds. But the moment you stop living for others' approval and start aligning with your own values, the change becomes palpable. It's not that you become any less driven or ambitious, but that your focus shifts from external validation to internal fulfillment. This subtle shift in energy alters the way you interact with the world and how the world interacts with you. When you're constantly chasing after someone's approval or trying to live up to external expectations, you're essentially wearing a mask. You may be playing a role, and while it may provide short-term rewards like attention or affirmation, it doesn't provide any lasting fulfillment. It's exhausting, and eventually it takes a toll on your mental and emotional health. Living authentically, on the other hand, means shedding that mask and stepping into your true self. It's about no longer pretending to be something you're not in order to please others, but allowing your real, unfiltered personality to shine through. This authenticity becomes a kind of quiet power. It doesn't demand attention, it simply commands respect. When you're no longer trying to fit into someone else's mold or meet their expectations, you allow yourself to step into a space of freedom. In that space, you can explore your true desires, interests, and aspirations without fear of judgment or rejection. There's no need to hide behind a facade. You show up as who you are without apology, and people can sense that honesty. It's something rare in today's world, and that rarity makes it magnetic. The beauty of living authentically is that it allows you to connect with people on a deeper level. When you stop chasing, you stop being inauthentic in your relationships, You are no longer seeking out relationships based on what you can get from them or how they make you feel validated. Instead, you attract relationships that are rooted in real connection. The people who are drawn to you are the ones who resonate with your true self, and that makes for far more meaningful and fulfilling interaction. Living authentically also gives you a sense of inner peace. The effort to constantly chase or please others is draining. You're never truly free because your actions are dictated by someone else's standards. But once you start living for yourself, the peace that comes with it is profound. You don't have to worry about fitting into someone else's vision for you because you have your own vision. You are in control of your own life, and this freedom feels like a weight has been lifted from your shoulders. Most importantly, authenticity is something that people feel. It's a kind of energy that transcends words and actions. When someone is truly themselves, it's impossible not to notice. There's a depth to their presence that isn't defined by what they wear, how they talk, or what they do, but by the unspoken truth of who they are. That authenticity carries a gravity of its own. It doesn't require constant effort or attention. It simply exists, and that makes it magnetic. People who are authentic don't need to seek validation from others because they've already found it within themselves. They know their worth, and that quiet confidence is powerful. It creates an undeniable pull that draws people to them, not out of need or desperation, but out of admiration for the strength it takes to live authentically. And in that process, you stop chasing, you stop performing. Instead, you just live. And that in and of itself is enough. Confidence, when it is rooted in detachment, becomes a force that emanates naturally from within. It's not about seeking attention or striving for recognition. It's about standing firm in who you are, independent of the external world's approval. The power in detachment lies in the freedom it gives you to exist without constantly needing to measure up to others' standards or expectations. This kind of confidence doesn't come from having all the answers or being perfect, but from knowing that your worth is not tied to someone else's validation. When you're detached from the constant need for approval, you stop giving away your emotional energy. You no longer feel the need to chase people, relationships, or outcomes because your sense of self-worth doesn't depend on whether others reciprocate or acknowledge your efforts. This kind of self-assuredness is incredibly attractive because it signals to others that you are not desperate for their attention or approval. You are simply secure in your own identity. And while it may seem counterintuitive, it's precisely this lack of desperation that draws others in. Detachment isn't about being cold or indifferent. It's about not allowing your emotions to be controlled by external factors. It's about choosing to remain grounded in your own beliefs, values, and purpose, even when the world around you might try to pull you in different directions. People sense this inner stability. They can tell when someone is unwavering, even when things aren't going perfectly. They are drawn to this sense of steadiness because it provides a safe space where they too can feel secure. Confidence born from detachment doesn't require constant validation, and that's where its true strength lies. People who rely on others for validation often find themselves trapped in a cycle of seeking approval. The more they chase it, the more they feel that they need it to feel good about themselves. But those who are detached from this cycle are free from this endless pursuit. They no longer measure their value by how others respond to them. Instead, they find strength in themselves, in their actions, and in the purpose they've chosen to pursue. This kind of confidence allows for emotional freedom as well. When you are detached from the need to please or seek approval, you don't internalize criticism the same way. Constructive feedback is welcomed as a tool for growth, but you no longer see it as a reflection of your self-worth. The sting of rejection doesn't feel as intense because your emotional security isn't dependent on how others view you. You can take criticism in stride, knowing that it doesn't diminish your value. This detachment creates a sense of emotional resilience where setbacks and challenges don't derail your confidence. Moreover, people are drawn to confidence because it creates a sense of trust. When someone is confident in their own identity, they become a source of stability for others. People feel safe and comfortable around them because they know that person isn't constantly seeking validation or approval. Instead, they are grounded in their own self-assurance, and that steadiness creates a magnetic pull. Others are naturally attracted to this kind of presence because it provides a sense of peace and security that they themselves may lack. This type of confidence is also contagious. When you stop chasing external validation and stand confidently in your own space, you inspire others to do the same. People begin to see that it's possible to live life without constantly seeking approval, and they start to emulate that behavior. They begin to realize that their own worth doesn't have to depend on others' opinions. This ripple effect of confidence can transform not only your own life, but the lives of those around you as well. True confidence, born from detachment, empowers you to make decisions based on what is right for you, not based on how others will perceive you. It allows you to pursue your own passions, your own goals, and your own path without fear of judgment. In turn, this creates a life that is authentic and fulfilling. The more you practice detachment, the more you realize that you have everything you need within yourself to succeed. Your confidence becomes unshakable because it is no longer dependent on anyone or anything outside of you. Ultimately, the power of detachment is that it gives you the freedom to be yourself fully. When you no longer chase validation, you stop playing a role for others and start living a life true to who you are. You become the best version of yourself, not because you're trying to prove something to the world, but because you've learned to trust yourself. And in that trust, your confidence grows. Not because you're seeking it, but because you've already found it within. Chasing often comes from a place of insecurity. It's the underlying belief that you're not enough as you are, and that you must constantly prove your worth to others in order to be valued or loved. The act of chasing, whether it's chasing relationships, success, or validation, stems from the idea that without external affirmation, you're incomplete. This mindset creates a cycle of dependence where your sense of self-worth is tied to the approval of others, and you are constantly seeking to fill that internal void with external validation. The more you chase, the more you convince yourself that your value is contingent upon someone else's recognition of your efforts. But here's the paradox. The more you chase, the more elusive the validation becomes. The harder you try to gain approval or affection, the less likely you are to receive it in the way you expect. People can sense when someone is acting out of desperation. It's subtle, but it's there. A kind of invisible pull that drives you to overextend yourself, to perform, to become someone you're not in order to gain the approval of others. And ironically, this behavior often leads to the exact opposite of what you desire. The more you chase, the more people tend to pull away. Not because they don't appreciate you, but because they can feel that your actions are rooted in a lack of self-respect. When you operate from a place of insecurity, you are essentially saying that you don't trust yourself. You are looking to others to fill that void, to reassure you of your worth. But no matter how many compliments you receive or how much attention you get, it will never be enough to truly satisfy the hunger for validation that comes from within. This is why chasing is ultimately unsustainable. It's a never-ending cycle that keeps you dependent on something external for your sense of value. This constant need for validation prevents you from ever truly discovering who you are. Instead of listening to your own voice and understanding your own desires, you are constantly adapting to meet the expectations of others. You become a chameleon, changing your behavior, thoughts, and actions in order to please those around you. And while you might receive fleeting moments of approval, those moments are hollow. They don't fill the deeper need for self-acceptance because they're based on a performance, not on the reality of who you are. The truth is that when you are constantly chasing, you are not living authentically. You are living in reaction to what others want or expect from you. And this reactionary way of living leads to frustration, confusion, and a lack of fulfillment. You are always seeking the next validation, the next approval, the next success. But you never pause to reflect on whether or not these things align with your true self. You're chasing external markers of success, things like recognition, status, or relationships, without ever asking if these things are truly in line with your own values and desires. Chasing also places you in a position of weakness. When you depend on others for your sense of worth, you are at their mercy. Their approval becomes your lifeline, and without it, you feel lost or inadequate. This sense of powerlessness is suffocating. You are constantly anxious about how others perceive you, afraid of making mistakes or showing vulnerability because you fear that it will result in rejection. But in reality, this kind of mindset creates a disconnect from your true self because you are more focused on meeting the needs of others than meeting your own. However, when you stop chasing and begin to cultivate self-respect, everything changes. Self-respect is the antidote to the insecurity that drives the need to chase. When you start to believe in your own worth, when you trust that you are enough just as you are, you no longer feel the need to perform for others. You no longer need to chase after approval or validation because you've already recognized your inherent value. This shift allows you to approach life from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. You stop looking for external validation to fill a void inside of you. Instead, you start focusing on creating a life that is fulfilling for you, one that aligns with your true values, passions, and purpose. You start making decisions based on what is right for you, not based on how others will perceive you. Your worth becomes internal, not dependent on what anyone else thinks or says. This internal shift brings freedom, freedom to be who you truly are without fear of judgment. Freedom to pursue what matters to you, not what others expect from you. Freedom to step into your own power and live authentically. And as you do, the irony is that the validation you once chased will begin to find you, not because you are seeking it, but because your actions are now rooted in self-respect, authenticity, and purpose. In the end, the real breakthrough comes when you realize that you never needed to chase anything in the first place. You simply needed to stop doubting your worth and start living from a place of confidence in who you are. When you stop chasing, you stop living in reaction to others. You stop performing for external validation. And in doing so, you unlock the key to a life of fulfillment, peace, and true connection with others. Self-respect is magnetic. It's one of the most powerful forces in human relationships, yet it's often underestimated or overlooked. When you prioritize self-respect, it doesn't just enhance your relationship with yourself, it also dramatically influences the way others see you. People are naturally drawn to individuals who have a strong sense of their own value. This attraction isn't based on superficial qualities, but on the quiet confidence that comes from knowing who you are, what you stand for, and where you're going. Self-respect means that you recognize your worth and refuse to compromise it for anyone or anything. It doesn't mean being arrogant or self-centered. Rather, it's the understanding that your thoughts, feelings, and desires are valuable. When you respect yourself, you acknowledge your strengths and flaws with the same level of acceptance, and you never diminish yourself to fit into someone else's narrative or expectations. This level of self-acknowledgement creates a deep internal strength that others can sense, even if it's not something they can articulate. People are drawn to those who have self-respect because it signals stability and integrity. When you respect yourself, you don't bend under pressure, and you don't make decisions based on the approval of others. You make choices based on what is right for you, what aligns with your values, and what will bring you fulfillment. In a world where people are often eager to please or conform, those who stand firm in their beliefs and decisions stand out. This quiet strength is magnetic because it signals to others that you are someone who is worth listening to, worth respecting, and worth investing in. There's an energy that self-respect creates that people can feel even from a distance. It's not an energy of force, but one of calm assurance. People who have self-respect don't feel the need to prove anything to anyone. They simply are. They don't seek validation because instead they are comfortable in their own skin, which creates a natural pull. This is why individuals with high levels of self-respect are often described as magnetic or charismatic. They don't try to capture attention. They naturally attract it because of the energy they radiate. The confidence that comes with self-respect is not loud or boastful. It's quiet, grounded, and deeply rooted in the belief that you don't need to do anything to be worthy of respect. What's also powerful about self-respect is that it sets boundaries. People who respect themselves know when to say no, when to walk away, and when to stand their ground. This doesn't mean they are closed off or unwilling to engage with others, but it means they won't tolerate being treated poorly or being put in situations that don't serve their best interests. Setting boundaries is a direct reflection of self-respect, and it automatically commands respect from others. When you are clear about your limits, people know how to treat you, and they are less likely to take advantage of you. But the key to understanding why self-respect is magnetic is that it doesn't just affect how others treat you, it also shapes how you treat others. When you respect yourself, you treat others with the same level of dignity and consideration. You're not trying to manipulate or control them. You simply show up with the same authenticity and respect that you give yourself. This creates an environment where mutual respect thrives, and relationships, whether personal or professional, are built on a foundation of trust, understanding, and shared value. People are naturally attracted to relationships that are based on mutual respect because they feel safe, valued, and supported. The people who have high self-respect tend to be those who are most successful in life, not necessarily in terms of wealth or status, but in terms of inner peace, meaningful relationships, and overall fulfillment. This success stems from their ability to make decisions that honor their true selves, rather than chasing fleeting moments of approval from others. When you make decisions from a place of self-respect, your choices are guided by your own values, which inevitably leads to a more authentic, fulfilling life. People notice this authenticity and they are drawn to it because authenticity is rare in a world where so many are focused on pleasing others and gaining external validation. In addition, self-respect creates an atmosphere of emotional strength. People who respect themselves are not easily swayed by the opinions of others. While they are open to feedback and criticism, they don't allow external opinions to dictate their self-worth. They don't feel the need to constantly explain themselves or seek approval. This emotional independence is incredibly attractive because it signals that you are self-sufficient and resilient. You don't need others to validate your existence or your choices. You are already whole and complete, which makes you a solid, dependable presence in any relationship. Ultimately, self-respect gives you the freedom to live life on your own terms. It enables you to take risks, pursue your dreams, and make decisions that are aligned with your purpose and passion, not based on what others want from you. And in doing so, it naturally attracts others who respect and admire you for who you truly are. The more you value and respect yourself, the more others will do the same. This creates a cycle of mutual respect and admiration, which enriches your life and fosters deeper, more meaningful connections with those around you. When you stop chasing and start living for yourself, a profound shift occurs in the energy you project into the world. This energy is not based on what you hope to achieve or who you hope to impress, but rather on the genuine, unshakable confidence that comes from aligning with your own desires, values, and purpose. The difference between living for yourself and living in pursuit of validation is vast, and it's this shift that attracts attention in a way that feels natural rather than forced. People begin to notice you not because you're striving for their approval, but because you've stepped into your own power. This transformation occurs when you stop measuring your worth based on external factors, be it the opinions of others, societal standards, or fleeting successes, and instead start measuring it by your own standards. When your life is no longer governed by the need for external validation, you stop performing for an audience and start living for your own fulfillment. You begin to pursue goals and passions that truly matter to you, not because they will make others notice, but because they resonate with your core beliefs and desires. This alignment between your actions and your values creates an energy that is magnetic. Living for yourself also means that you stop seeking to prove anything to anyone. You no longer need to display your achievements, your talents, or your qualities to gain others' approval. Instead, you quietly go about living a life that aligns with your true self. This genuine pursuit of what brings you joy, fulfillment, and purpose makes you stand out. People can feel when someone is truly passionate about their path, when their actions are guided by intrinsic motivation rather than the desire to be seen. This authenticity becomes something that others admire, often without realizing why they are drawn to you. It's the quiet power that comes from being deeply connected to your own journey, independent of how others perceive it. The key to this shift is understanding that when you live for yourself, you start to create a life that is truly your own. You no longer sacrifice your own happiness or well-being for the sake of someone else's approval. Instead, you become the architect of your own life, making decisions based on your own goals and aspirations. The act of living for yourself requires you to take ownership of your life, to choose your own direction, and to build a reality that reflects your authentic self. This level of self-responsibility and self-determination commands respect. And in turn, this self-respect naturally attracts others. The people who are drawn to you are those who resonate with your values, who appreciate the authenticity you embody, and who are inspired by your commitment to your own path. They see that you are not dependent on their approval, and that independence is compelling. It's magnetic because it represents freedom, a freedom that others long for. They admire your ability to live on your own terms, to set your own boundaries, and to pursue your dreams with unwavering focus and determination. You become someone who isn't just existing to meet the expectations of others, but someone who is actively creating a life that reflects their true desires. Moreover, when you stop chasing and start living for yourself, you stop attaching your sense of worth to how others perceive you. This detachment from external approval allows you to take risks without fear of judgment. When your worth is no longer tied to the validation of others, you become free to experiment, fail, and grow without the crippling fear of rejection. This sense of freedom opens up new possibilities. You're able to pursue opportunities that align with your purpose, even if they seem unconventional or risky. And when you live with that kind of fearlessness, people notice. They see that you are not confined by the limitations that others often place on themselves. You are forging your own path, and that kind of independence and courage is inherently attractive. Furthermore, living for yourself allows you to set clear boundaries. When you stop chasing the approval of others, you begin to protect your time, energy, and emotional well-being. You learn to say no to things that don't align with your values, and you create space for the things that truly matter. This strength in setting boundaries reinforces your self-respect and teaches others how to treat you. People respect individuals who know their worth and who aren't afraid to enforce their boundaries. This self-assurance creates a magnetic aura around you because others recognize that you are someone who values themselves, and that in turn makes them more likely to value you as well. The most powerful aspect of living for yourself is that it frees you from the need to control others' perceptions of you. When you stop trying to meet others' expectations or fit into a box they've created for you, you begin to live authentically. Your life no longer revolves around trying to meet external criteria of success, beauty, or worth. Instead, you define your own success, your own standards, and your own happiness. This is the key to attracting not just attention, but the right kind of attention, the attention of people who value you for who you truly are, not for what you can offer them or how you make them feel. In essence, the more you live for yourself, the less you need to chase anything. You stop chasing people, approval, or success because you've already found those things within yourself. Your confidence is grounded in your own sense of self-worth, and that confidence is magnetic. People are drawn to you not because you're trying to impress them, but because you're living a life that impresses them by its very authentic. When you choose to live for yourself, you naturally attract the right people and the right opportunities because they are drawn to the energy of someone who knows their own worth and is living true to who they are. When you stop chasing and start living for yourself, something incredible happens. You attract people who truly resonate with who you are, not who you're pretending to be or who you're trying to become in their eyes. When you stop trying to prove yourself to others, you begin to naturally surround yourself with those who align with your values, passions, and vision for life. This is the essence of true connection. People who are attracted to your authentic self, not the persona you've constructed to gain approval or admiration. These connections are far more fulfilling and meaningful because they are built on mutual respect, shared understanding, and genuine affection. One of the most powerful aspects of living for yourself is that it liberates you from the exhausting cycle of chasing external approval. When you stop constantly looking for validation from others, you create space for deep, authentic relationships to flourish. You are no longer performing or adjusting yourself to meet others' expectations. Instead, you are free to show up as your true, unapologetic self. This authenticity is magnetic because it signals to others that you are confident in your own skin. It's a signal that says, I don't need you to validate me. I am whole as I am, and I welcome you into my life because of who I am, not because of who I am trying to be. People can sense when you are not in need of their validation. There's a quiet strength in being someone who stands firm in their beliefs, someone who knows their worth without needing constant reassurance from others. This energy creates an attraction that is rooted in respect, admiration, and a deep appreciation for the authenticity you embody. It's not about playing games or trying to manipulate others into liking you. Instead, it's about offering the world the best version of yourself, one that is grounded in truth, integrity, and self-respect. The beauty of this approach is that it fosters relationships where both individuals are free to be themselves. When you stop chasing after people or experiences, you are no longer bound by fear of rejection or the pressure of needing to impress. Instead, you allow connections to form naturally based on real compatibility and shared values. The right people will be drawn to you, not because you are perfect, but because you are real. They will see the genuine confidence that comes from self-respect, and that will inspire them to connect with you on a deeper, more meaningful level. Living for yourself also means that you begin to surround yourself with people who challenge you, support you, and help you grow. These are the people who don't try to change you or mold you into something you're not. They accept you as you are, and they encourage you to continue evolving into the best version of yourself. These kinds of relationships are enriching because they are based on mutual growth. When you attract people who respect you for who you are, you also learn to respect them for their own individuality. This dynamic fosters a sense of community where everyone can thrive in their own way without feeling the need to compete or constantly compare. As you continue on this journey of self-discovery and self-respect, you will find that the relationships you cultivate become more fulfilling and aligned with your true desires. You will no longer find yourself in relationships that drain you or leave you feeling unappreciated because you have set clear boundaries based on the respect you have for yourself. You will no longer settle for connections that require you to shrink or compromise your values in order to be accepted. Instead, you will seek out relationships that encourage you to grow, support your dreams, and allow you to be your most authentic self. This journey of living for yourself also empowers you to pursue your passions and ambitions with a renewed sense of clarity and focus. No longer will you be distracted by the need for external validation or the fear of judgment. You will follow your own path, knowing that your worth is not tied to the outcomes of your pursuits, but to the integrity with which you pursue them. You will embrace challenges with a sense of confidence and resilience because you understand that your value is not determined by success or failure, but by the strength of your character and the courage to stay true to yourself. In the end, when you stop chasing and start living for yourself, you unlock the kind of freedom that most people spend their entire lives searching for. It's the freedom to be yourself, to make decisions based on what truly matters to you, and to form relationships that are rooted in mutual respect and authenticity. It's the freedom to live a life that reflects your deepest desires and values without feeling the pressure to conform or perform for others. And it's the freedom to attract the right people and opportunities into your life. People who will love you not for what you do or how you look, but for who you truly are. As you continue on this path, remember that the most powerful and magnetic thing you can do is simply to be yourself. When you stop chasing and start living for yourself, you will find that the right people, the right opportunities, and the right experiences will begin to flow into your life with ease. This is the true power of living authentically, and it's the key to building a life that is not only successful, but deeply fulfilling and meaningful. So let go of the chase, trust in your own worth, live with integrity, and allow the world to come to you. Because when you stop chasing, you become the very thing others are naturally drawn to